I'd like to introduce you to Roy and Aster. They're two of our enterprise customers. And what we're going to talk about is the problems and solutions they may have found using their CRM. So first of all, Aster, I wonder if you could possibly just introduce yourself, tell us what it's like at day-to-day at Landor and how many users you have.
Hi everyone, I'm Aster, and I'm a product manager at Landor. I have a background in mechanical engineering, and then it's going to be like on 3 years, I've been at Landor as product manager, and I've been enjoying it so far, learned loads of things, and we have about 320 users on our instance.
Roy, 8 years you've been doing CRM. Too long?
Is that coming on? There we are.
That's it, you're working now.
Lovely.
And you're with Canal River Trust?
Yep.
A charity?
Yeah.
The organisation that's responsible for keeping our canals clean and looking
running.
wonderful and running and full of water.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little about your organisation, how that works and how many users you have?
Yeah, I'll try. So I'm Roy Gibson. I'm the CRM and Data Outcomes Manager for the Canal and River Trust. We're a charity, and we operate the 2,000 odd miles of canals and rivers that we are in charge of. That includes the towpaths, the bridges, the reservoirs, the lock gates, all the things you would see at the side of a canal and river. We pretty much make sure they run and look pretty and people can enjoy them. We've got roughly 1,800 employees, not all of which use the CRM, and we've got about sort of 700 to 800 licenses, I think, from the top of my head.
Cool, different companies totally. We have an enterprise company and a charity. Different problems, I guess. So first of all, Aster, what's been your biggest problem when dealing with the CRM?
I think we touched on it a little bit before, but user engagement, I think that's a problem with any product. And really trying to get the teams not just to enter opportunities on there, but enter prospects, leads, and contacts, because we can see like it's probably easier when you have a project just to enter that in at the opportunity level, but really we want to see the contacts, we want to see the prospects really at that early stage, and trying to drive that, because maybe there's not as much as a benefit from the user seeing that. At that stage, they probably don't enter it, but now that we've kind of had more training sessions with the users, try to improve the layouts of the modules, and SugarCRM really allows us to do that because it's quite customizable. We integrate it with other platforms. So now that we've had a bit more interaction with the teams over the last couple of years, we've seen an improvement in engagement, and I think that was our biggest problem.
Cool, thank you, Aster. Charity, looking after the canals. You have a lot of volunteers as well as users. Do they interact with the CRM at all, Roy?
They do, yeah. I think our greatest issue, I think, is just the complexity of our own business and our own charity. So we've got volunteers. They're logging their time logs, their hours, what they're doing, when they've done it, how they've done it, their expenses, all of that sort of stuff. So that's probably enough for one system to try and handle. Then we've got all the donations. That's all the lovely people giving us money to operate as a charity. That goes into the system and gets managed centrally in there. We've got a SAP system that does all the actual financial stuff, but the rule of what's happening is what's in the CRM, that's what's in. And then on top of that, we've got a customer service team. So that's, oh, no, there's a Jeep now lodged inside a canal. Can you please fish it out? For your reference, that costs £8,000 every time we've got to do that. And so that's what our customer service team deal with principally. And so they've got all their cases going into the system and how all that sort of works. And then we're just bringing now in boat licensing. So that's when you've got a little canal boat, you've got a little license that allows you to move the canal boat and moor up and not do all that sort of stuff. All that's going into the system, and we're much to enables like we're putting actual boats into the system as opposed to people as well. And so yeah, we've got to make a whole module about boats, which is entertaining to say the least. So complexity is probably our biggest issue, really.
Cool, thank you very much. Aster, your Landor's all over the world. How do you handle the fact that you've got different time zones, different teams, and different projects handle it? How do you handle that within the CRM?
Well, we have a big issue where people use spreadsheets and people love to use Excel spreadsheets to have meetings. And we've had a big issue where we have Sugar, but they don't want to use it because they think it's complicated, or it's a lot easier to go for a spreadsheet and just edit one number instead of having to enter an opportunity and putting every single required field. But I think what we've started to do is that I work with one of the managers in our Hamburg office, and she's really dedicated to looking at, improving the user's knowledge of Sugar and what it's actually capable of, and why we use it, why our leadership team, why they use it and how they use it, what do they look at it. And I think once they understood that it's not just for them, it's for everyone, and they can also find out a lot of things about how their team are doing in projects and how themselves are doing, because they can track their own assigned opportunities as well. I think throughout these dedicated training sessions, I think they've learned how important SugarCRM is, and I think that's how we're tackling the problem.
Do you use it for reporting
Yes.
per division?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So Enable actually helped us to create a custom report where we have two, and then we also create standard reports based on each individual team's requirements. So that's how we tackle reporting on a global level.
So you've created some custom reports outside of the SugarCRM?
No, in
just for your organisation?
Yes, so custom reports just for Landor
Yeah.
in SugarCRM, and Enable helped us to code those.
Cool, thank you. We mentioned it costs £8,000, was it?
Yeah, £8,000 to get a Land Rover out of a canal.
Right. Why do people put Land Rovers in the canal?
What can I legally say?
I know
People
you
commit
steal
crimes.
them very easily.
People commit crimes and then they want to get rid of a vehicle, and it's a convenient way of doing it sometimes.
Oh, that's a hint for me to get rid of
Yeah,
some
no.
stuff I want to get rid of. Take it down to the canal. You have a lot of volunteers, and I think you mentioned timesheets, etc. I believe you also get them to fill in expenses, etc., which all feeds back in to your CRM, which is a little bit outside the CRM sphere, really, isn't it?
Yeah, quite. I don't know Enable's point of view on this, but I think we probably push Sugar's capabilities to its absolute, weird limits. So it's not really designed to do volunteer management sort of things, and run expenses through and all that sort of stuff. But that was what our requirement was, and Enable helped us to go, oh yeah, if you want to do it, this is how it happens, and this is how it talks back to SAP, and this is how you do this. And so, yeah, that's what we have done with it. And so I think we turned up to Enable calls and go, settle down, we've got an issue here, and we try and sort some of that stuff out. Like, for example, we do gift aid stuff through the system as well, and that's not easy, but Enable have helped us make a report that we just essentially press a button and it sent it off to His Majesty's Revenue and Customs and sorts all that stuff out as well. So
On stage.
yeah,
Goodness
sorry.
me, Majesty's Revenue Customers. What are you? Good God, taxman.
I had to nearly stop myself from
So
saying.
you've also got some custom reports that provide you with information from the CRM about your users, the volunteers, etc.
Yeah.
Is that does that help you elsewhere in?
Yeah, we do. We do custom reports for volunteering. Have been quite good in terms of they know what they want to get out of the system, and they've got what we could describe as super users, so people who are using Sugar day in, day out, and they sort of know how to write a report, they know how to do this, they know how to do that, and we can let them get on with that sort of thing, so they can write their own reports. They can come to myself and my colleague John, who are in charge of the CRM for the trust, and we can go to Enable and say, we've got this quite complex issue, how do we do it? We've got various ways of doing it. Sometimes we export some of the data out of SugarCRM into Power BI, if anyone's familiar with that, and then we bring in other sources that we don't necessarily want to put into the side of the CRM, and do that sort of thing and make advanced reports that way as well.
Cool. Security, how do you handle that with all these different people coming in?
We have a really quite effective team management sort of thing inside Sugar. So we group people by regions and teams, and then they can only see what they want to be able to see for their job, and it's not the whole system. We also have a sensitive documents team, which is to do with, so we might have volunteers that have got convictions, but it's absolutely fine for them to work for the trust, and so the knowledge of that conviction is a document that lives inside the system, but not everybody needs to see that document, or everybody needs to even know it's there. And so there's all of those interesting security things that you wouldn't necessarily think about for a CRM system, especially when handling volunteers. But the system handles that quite well, and we've developed those teams with Enable and said, how do we do this? Help. And they've shown us the way.
Thank you. Aster, how many in your team looking after your CRM? Or does it all fall on your shoulders?
No, luckily I have my lovely colleague over here, Maria. She's over there. Yeah, with her help, we have a couple other people in our team, but we manage it together, and we then have calls with some of the leadership team and then some of the client services, new business teams as well, and finance teams. So we mainly work closely with finance teams because they're the ones who want customizations on those custom reports I was talking about before, because we have ones that track the backlog, win sign data, what's in the pipeline for the business, as well as looking at what is add-on farming work looking like, new business looking like. So we get feedback sessions with them and to see where we can improve in the system as well.
Have you and your team actually implemented integrations into your CRM at all?
Yeah, we have several integrations. We have an in-house developer that helps us with that on our side, but we have helped from Enable to create custom webhooks as well. And we have integrations with our resourcing and project management software. And we also have a report with Power BI as well. And we also just recently integrated with MailChimp.
Wonderful. Same question to you, Roy. Integrations, do you love them or hate them?
Hate them, but which won't be a surprise. But we've got when I say integration team, it makes it sound like there's lots of people, but there's two. And so a head of integration and a person actually doing the integration. And we've just embarked actually on a trust-wide integration hub. So that's all of the data, no matter what it is, going into a hub, and then whatever the system wants to take out of those data sources, it pulls it back out of that hub, which is a good way of doing it. If you've not tried to do it before, it's quite good if you've got the infrastructure. It doesn't require employing people who know how to do it, which isn't me. And so we've got, irrespective of that integration hub, which is bringing all the fundraising stuff mostly into that system. So that's GiveStar, Just Giving. You'll probably realise from like doing marathons or any sort of things like that. We have to get that data from that system and then bring it into Sugar, and we do that via integration hubs coming soon, but we've got other ways around at the moment of doing it. And then we've got Marketo, which we use for our email stuff, and that's because that contract was pre-existing to Sugar. Otherwise we probably would have gone down a different route, because it means taking it out into another system entirely, which I'm not a massive fan of. And yeah, Power BI and various other things coming in and out of it, but there's quite a lot going in and out, definitely.
Thank you, Roy. Aster, what haven't you got? What would you like? What's not in the product that you think every day, come on guys, get on with it, put it in there so we can start using it?
I think in our instance, I think we definitely utilize a lot of what Sugar provides, but I think in terms of using it as a client relationship management tool, I think we want to do that a little bit more. So I think, you touched upon Sugar Connect, and we are trying to do a similar integration to get more, to see how the emails look like, so those people in new business can really stay on Outlook and work on Sugar from there. And I think that's something that we currently don't have, but we're working on to do. So I think that's the major thing that we're working on at the moment.
How about you, Roy? How many integrations have you got? You've mentioned a couple, that Ready to HMRC.
Yeah.
Anyone else that we should know about?
There's loads. There's about 19 on the integration hub checklist to get into the system. In terms of other stuff within the system, again, it goes back to our complexity stuff. There's loads of stuff within inside the trust that I'd like to get into the system. For example, we've got museums and attractions and things that we operate, so you can go visit, like we've got hydraulic movements of from like a baseline canal that goes up to another canal, and you can go, it's called Anderton Boat Lift, and you can go see that, and it's in Cheshire. And If you turn up there, we won't necessarily know that you've turned up there because the till system doesn't speak to the CRM system. And so I want to be able to try and do that one day where we bring in a sort of retail side of things. But like 3 or 4 years in the future, I've got so many projects before that, but it's that's the one I want to get to.
Cool, thank you. Now, Sugar's big strength for me is its low code, no code for the studio. Have you had a go at it, Aster?
Very much so. I think it's every day. I think, I'm on it, and,
Don't do us out of a job, will you?
I'll try. No, the studio is really good because, when you talk to users and, they're like, we need new required fields, enable a great help, but this is good so that I can, just go in the studio, put the field in. It's really intuitive. I can add new lists. I can edit everything that we need to. I can edit the layout, and I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that it's there. So
Do you take feedback, as Joe was suggesting, from your users? As he said, we have a little tab which we really should get rid of in ours. It says make suggestions. There's far too many suggestions.
Oh, I was thinking of actually including that in ours, actually. Yeah.
Oh.
I thought that would be quite good because right now how they do it is that we either have a form that they fill out and they can tell us, if there's any issues or if they want any feedback. But I was thinking actually it would be kind of good to get them just on Sugar and then just put the feedback in there and then instead of having them to go by email and then wait for someone to reply back to them. So.
Yeah, change management, I think, is it's important to know where you were and where you've come from, because certainly if you look at our CRM, we had stuff in it 5 years ago which we took out, and now we're putting back in again. But that's mainly because Joe can never make up his mind. That's nothing to do with the product. It's just that he's all over the place. Same for you. Roy, have you had a go at the studio?
Yeah, I was using it yesterday and putting some fields in there. So yeah, it's really easy to use. I go into that studio, for people who don't know sort of the architecture specifically of how the Trust one works. Go into studio, fix your stuff, it then goes into your testing environment and all your live environments as well, and it just takes, it ticks over on the at night time and then updates everything. And yeah, it's pretty easy to use. I put in some new fundraising fields, and that allows our website to then ask some more questions, which will then populate those fields through the website, and it will start putting those into the data into the system for donations, which is just stuff we need to know.
Roy, how with so many different disparate people using the system, either by the portal or directly into Sugar, how have you handled the training?
We've got like a super user group, so we meet with them every month, and those, because it would be impossible. I've got a colleague called John who's not here today because he's ill. And we talk to those people and say, this is all the stuff that we've done in the system recently. Obviously, been working with those teams to do that anyway, so they know, but the rest of the users probably won't know what we've been doing, so we update them on that. And then we open that up to more questions, and we empower those people to go actually train their teams inside it. So we've got a finance person who's really good at SugarCRM, they go train that. We've got a customer service person who's really good at it. We've got a volunteer person who's really good at it, etc. And they don't have to be the manager. Typically, they're not the manager. They're the person on the ground doing all of the worky stuff while the manager's off in meetings and going to conferences and talking about stuff. And so, yeah, that's how we do it. We sort of distribute it among people because it'd be impossible for two people to try and redo all the thing. And we also lean into very basic stuff. We lead into our IT training team to do data protection stuff. So in terms of security inside the system, there's obviously like money, bank account details, all of that sort of stuff, which if you work in fundraising or in the other teams, you can see that data. And in terms of, I won't call it a training, but as a protection, I guess, for the place that you work, it's good to go through a data protection trading thing to go, you will be given access to this sort of stuff. It doesn't mean you can use it for all of these legal reasons. And that's just a good catch net of sort of safety and security in that sense as well.
Thank you very much for that. Same question, Aster. Training. Do you dash all those? Is it an opportunity for you to visit Australia, New York?
Maybe one day.
Look, maybe one day.
But we actually do something quite similar. We did multiple training sessions, when Sugar was actually first implemented. And we run quarterly, we try to run quarterly training sessions for the wider teams, in client services, finance, new business teams. And then I do run some one-on-one new starter training sessions for Sugar as well. But most of the time, when a new person is onboarded, that person in their team, there is one person that is well versed with Sugar, and then they train them. And then if they have any questions, then they come to me, and then I can go through it with them.
Roy mentioned about the security of the data inside of it, field security. Is that something that you have to worry about, or is it? Do you have global users and everyone's able to see everything?
So we do utilize like a global team for visibility, so to avoid duplicates and to also just transparency reasons. But we do utilize the role management within Sugar. So, users only have access to what they need to see, to what they need to access. And then, we have an admin group that have access to everything, but it's very small.
And same question to you. I know that you have to have a duty to care to some of your volunteers because they're quite young. How have you handled that?
We've got all sorts of things in play. We've got young people obviously in the system as well. So we handle that in some ways of taking less data from them. And so we might just know their name and their date of birth and things like that, and the fact that they're volunteering. And parent and guardian information. We've got other vulnerable adults that we operate with who have got sort of, let's say, special educational needs for now. And we take different bits of them. We've got an emergency contact thing for volunteers. So when they're in the system, we can say this is their next of kin and this is how to contact them. We did regularly go through that data and found out someone just put Joan Smith and then no other details, and so we just envisioned shouting Joan Smith at the side of a canal bank when so-and-so is drowning, and keeping that up to date as well, because if they've had a divorce, Joan might not want to know that previous of her husband is just in a canal. I'll be like, good riddance to him. So there's all of that. There's all of that sort of maintaining all of that sort of thing. So there's that sort of, I wouldn't call it data security, but just making sure we've run through scenarios of what might happen with various bits of data. We, as a charity, we also have to abide by, we're happy to do so, the Charities Commission in terms of making sure that people who are vulnerable aren't accidentally donating to a charity, and we have got various, I won't go into the boring details of charity regulation, but we've got various ways to make sure that people are in charge of their full faculties while they're donating to us as well.
Thank you very much, Roy. I'm always accused of finishing things too quickly, especially my puddings. How long have I got to continue asking questions? 5 minutes. Right, thank you. I've got 5 minutes. Interesting about your putting the boats into your CRM. Does this mean I've still got to buy a licence?
Yes.
Or is there any way I can avoid not buying a licence?
No.
Boats?
No. My boat licence team will say, no, you have to buy a licence, buy a licence,
Right.
buy a licence. But it's interesting because that whole project is one of those, I didn't raise my hand because I thought I might get to this, and in fact I'm going to. One of the difficulties of doing that sort of thing, I went down to meet with the boat licensing team. We all sat in a big room, head of IT was there, and we left that meeting going, jobs are good and we know exactly what we're doing with boat licensing. A week later, all these emails start flowing in, oh, we've had a thought, actually. No, I want to change it, I want to do all this. And it's just like, oh God, we were so close, so close. And so you then have to almost go through the whole process again. We got a business analyst in to be a mediator between boat licensing and CRM and IT and get all the requirements back down again. And now we're moving forward with it, but it's one of those things, and one of the advices I would say is make sure you know your processes before you start then trying to get the system to do the things you want it to, because you don't know what the process is. And so we had to go, what do you want to do in boat licensing? What do you do in your old system? And we had to sort of break them out of their old system thinking and go, just because that's what you've been doing forever in boat licensing system does not mean you have to do that inside this. Like, why are you keeping that data? Why are you asking those questions? do you even need the data? This is what you could do in Sugar. Why does that not fulfill what you need to be able to do? And it was having those, we're pretty good as a charity. I mean, you know, to those relatively direct questionings, and it's not like it's just business. It's like, why are we doing all this stuff? And they're quite honest conversations, but they sort of, you need to get to that level before you then start trying to get a system to do it, because if you don't know what you're doing, then the system won't know what you're doing either.
Thank you, Roy. Awkward users, Aster. I've got Joe, he's my awkward users. What do you do and how do you deal with awkward users?
So I think we run a couple of standard reports, and the teams, not me, but one of the people in the leadership team, she looks through the reports, and she sends out emails to each region, new business, especially I think client services, and if she sees anything weird, I think she flags it through there. But luckily, because we've kind of been selective with what required fields we use, we don't have that many, but there are some users that try to put NA or TBC and then don't ever come back to update that. We do see reports for that, so we can nudge them a little bit.
Yeah, as Joe admitted to earlier, it's fairly lazy when it comes into doing his CRM admin. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone got any questions? Oh.
Is that okay?
Oliver, what's your question?
I think it's both to Aster and Roy. Being responsible for so many users in such big organisations, what has been the biggest hurdle for adoption across the business of new CRMs, with new CRMs?
So the question was, having so many users, what was the biggest hurdle for user adoption? Aster, I did that.
No.
I can see you with that.
No, it's fine. Speak too much. I need to be told to shut up.
I think it's users not understanding the workflow of Sugar, so they might think that things are meaningless when they're not, but they simply they don't know that yet. So I think having wider conversations with the team to really make them understand that Sugar is a powerful tool, and if we do use it to its fullest capacity, it can give us a lot of feedback, and even for them. So I think just making sure everyone knows why we set it up the way we have and what usefulness it provides, I think that is our way to resolve that.
Cool, taking them with you rather than actually arguing against them. Roy, same question. I won't interrupt you this time, I promise. Really, I won't.
Okay. So I think, and you might have this if you've got particularly like companies with a lot of history to them. We started out as British Waterways, which is a government organisation in charge of making the canals and rivers operate, and then we've seamlessly got it to become a charity as the government went, I don't want to fund this. And so we've got people that have worked with us for us for 25, 30, 40 years in their own little processes. We still come up against, I'm just noting this down on a piece of paper in this office. Why do I need to put it into a system? I've been doing it in Excel. I vividly shake when I'm on a Teams call and someone says, I'll just put it in an Excel spreadsheet. Isn't that enough? No. And how do we get those people onto the system? It is showing them the benefits. It's trying to explain the benefits to them, because it's like, oh, what's in it for me? I'm putting all this information, and it's just like, well, yeah, but actually it's going to end up being a lot quicker for you when you're talking to clients that you're talking to again and again and again. And ultimately, there's one way we've done it, which we've just implemented events. So, for example, you can go try fishing with us, called Let's Fish, and we're now putting all the events data into the side of the system, so we know how many people have turned up to events, who those people are, etc., and so forth, and we can report on it. And I've been saying to the events team, and they've been going, oh, I'm not sure all these people are going to do it, and it's just like, here's the catch. You can't report on it unless it's in the system. And so if you aren't putting an event through this recognised process and it's not in the system, you can't turn up to your meeting and go, oh, I've got 25 people down to this fishing event. It's just like, no, you didn't. It's not even in the system. And it's just like, oh, well, I did. And it's just like, yeah, put it in the system. And so eventually, because they can't report it and they can't be proud of their achievements, you get them to put it in the system, and then they can be proud of their achievements. It is included in reports. And if that's the only way you're going to take your reports about any metric that you're possibly using in the system, then by nature it sort of forces people, gently forcing them without like, you know, bashing them over the head. Use it. It then forces them into being able to be proud of their achievements by, that's what's included in the report and nothing else.